Good evening and welcome to your TVC headlines in Clarence Rockland. It's Thursday the 5th of November and I'm your host, Thomas Stockton, bringing you your weekly regional update. In your headlines this week, COVID-19 latest in Ontario and Prescott Russell, update to the 2021 draft budget, winter parking dilemmas, waste management and recycling contract extended, Rockland resident rushed to hospital following the execution of a police search warrant, Remembrance Day preparations, October marks Disability Employment Awareness Month, new personal support workers soon to be available in the region, and the Christmas spirit may be arriving sooner than we think. As the COVID-19 pandemic continues to cause issues across the globe, there is some positive news locally, as Ottawa and the Eastern Ontario region have both eased off their restrictions this week. The Eastern Ontario Health Unit Medical Officer Dr. Paul Rumeliatis announced that the region will be loosening their restrictions put in place on the 23rd of October as the province sets new guidelines surrounding its classification of municipalities with a more targeted COVID-19 category system. The new system will classify municipalities based on their positive cases and place them into colour-graded categories. And with the recent dip in cases in Eastern Ontario, it is highly likely that these restrictions will loosen.
We're confident that we're going to be put into the yellow. We're just waiting the approval from Cabinet. That's going to come in on Friday. Once it's official, obviously we're getting ready to ensure that the businesses know what the requirements are. And again, they're not very stringent. They're not very different from what I have now. I will be, once that new regulation kicks in, which it will kick in at midnight on Saturday, this coming Saturday, I will cancel my Section 22, and this will replace it because it's a provincial regulation at that point. And I've explained before that it's an easier approach, and then it's written there. All that will be communicated to our municipalities, enforcement chambers of commerce, and so on. But as you can see, that yellow zone does not really change much from what we're doing right now. So I'm hoping, and I'm convinced that we will be in that. So we're preparing for that. Again, I want to stress that even if we were in orange, there would be no closures. But we're not going to be in orange at this point. We're going to keep in touch. This is going to be reevaluated regularly and reevaluated by the government every 28 days. And we'll have an idea of where we'll go from that point in time.
The new guidelines propose their own set of restrictions, such as limiting seating at a restaurant to 6 people from your immediate household and limiting operating hours as well. In the capital, which had been in modified stage 2 for 4 weeks now, restrictions are loosening as well as they announced that fitness centres and indoor dining can resume in Ottawa. The limits on seating and the 10 p.m. curfew will however remain, as well as restrictions of 10 people indoors and 25 outdoors for private gatherings, and supervised public gatherings will allow up to 50 people indoors and 100 outside. Ontario and Canadian numbers have been on the rise, though locally there continues to be a downward trend in positive cases. In the Prescott Russell region, there have been a total of 446 cases, of which 119 are still active. Clarence Rockland has 19 active cases, down from the 22 that we had last week, and there is further good news as cases have decreased across the region, including Hawkesbury, where active cases are now down to 64 from 72. The City Council held their annual draft budget meetings this week following the uproar on social media after the 2021 draft budget for Clarence Rockland was slightly unexpectedly published online. With local tax rates proposed to increase by 4%, much of the meetings centred around how they could lower this number closer to the 2% maximum increase that the council had proposed earlier this year. Notable cuts made included requiring the library to source the cost of living pay rises from within their own accounts, councillors voting in favour of freezing their pay for the next 12 months, and removing the Jean-Marc Lalonde Arena from the city's portfolio. Council also asked that the Infrastructure and Planning Department look at delaying the purchase of new vehicles for 1 more year due to the exceptional financial demands imposed by the pandemic. The 3 days of meetings continued on Thursday evening, and we will bring you a summary of what happened in the next few weeks here on TVC Headlines. But as of Wednesday night, the tax rate in the local region has been lowered to 2.8%. In the City Council's public meeting on Monday this week, Councillor of Ward 2, Mr. Mario Zanth, raised a question regarding winter parking in places such as Natalie Street. Under the new bylaw, approved by the local council only a few months ago, from the 15th of November, Natalie Street and other roads like it won't allow parking on either side of the road. The confusion stems from the wording in the bylaw, which stated that highways, depending on their size, would be given reduced winter parking.
So when I read it, I'm looking at highways, I'm looking at major intersections, major roads. I'm not thinking that I've never thought of Nathalie Street being like 4 feet across or whatever it is to actually be considered a highway. So maybe it's the way that it's written. Maybe it's the way that the reports are delivered to council, Maybe it's the fact that when the administration brings such a huge report as an amendment to a bylaw for parking, which we had been asking for, to actually point out certain things, to say, by the way, these following streets are going to have their parking completely removed, which was not something that was discussed. So it's just important to have that open communication.
Councillor Zanth also asked for no tickets to be issued while this matter was being resolved. But there was no definitive answer on Monday night, as the matter will have to be raised at the next City Council meeting on the 16th of November. Councillor Zanth told TVC22 that he is working hard on this matter, and we understand that residents are advised against parking on the streets until a definitive answer is made available. Also on Monday night, subject to the approval at the next meeting, the current waste and recycling contract was extended for a further 2 years. The contract with Tomlinson Environmental Services, which was due to end on the 13th of March 2021, will now run for a further 2 years, costing the local region an additional $82,000 in service fees. A transition in the Waste-Free Ontario Act will occur in March 2023, coinciding with the extension of Tomlinson Environmental Services contract, giving the council an opportunity to re-evaluate their options without having to change waste collection companies multiple times in the coming years. A person of interest in an Ontario Special Investigations Unit case was taken to the hospital last week following the execution of a search warrant at a home in Rockland. The man, who is 53 years old, suffered serious injuries and was located by police shortly after entering his home in the morning of the 29th of October. 3 investigators and a forensic investigator have been assigned to the case. We will bring you more information on this case in the coming weeks on your TVC headlines. With Remembrance Day around the corner, the City of Clarence Rockland prepares to undertake the commemorations in a slightly different way this year, as City Councillor Carl Grimard told us. Here to talk about the 2020 Remembrance Day. The plans are obviously going to be slightly different. Can you talk us through what people can expect for this year?
Well, unfortunately, with the pandemic going on, we want to make sure that people are safe. So this year is going to be more of a virtual parade, so there's no official parade or ceremony. This will be a virtual parade reduced in numbers, and I believe so far that this is going to be put on Facebook Live through TVC 22 and also through the city's website.
Fantastic. And you mentioned there about there being no parade. What would you say to people who would like to come out and still watch the events in person? With it being reduced and with social distancing, certain measures would have to be in place. What would you say to those people that feel like they have to come out?
I would really encourage people to go on the safe side. So stay at home, watch it through social media. Of course, if you've been touched by a veteran, or if you yourself have been serving or is serving in the military and want to pay your honors and tributes to the people that have fallen so we can live in such a great country, absolutely, I say to these guys, to these people, don't be afraid to come in, respect social distancing. Myself being a veteran from the military, I will absolutely come here tomorrow, but I'll make sure that there's very little people, if no people at all, and I'll come and pay my respects.
A special addition to this year's event are the new banners that can be seen running along Laurier Street, which include names that, before this year, had never been recognised. We spoke to Padre Robert Merritt about this year's newest additions.
A year ago when I was here, we were doing the ceremony And it dawned on me as we were doing that, we never did an honor roll. And that is something that has been traditional in other cenotaphs. So I went back to the Legion after the year and I said, you know, we really should be calling out the names of those who have served and died. And when I came to the cenotaph to look at the names, I was shocked to find out that there weren't any names listed for the First World War. So checking with the history records of both City Hall and of Gilles Chartrand of the Rockland Museum, we came up empty. And I was really surprised because, of course, Great War brought many deaths. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Denise Beaton, who is a wonderful community-minded volunteer who does a lot of ancestry work. And she agreed that she would help on the project, and she started going through ancestry.ca, and she came up with 5 men from Rockland who had served in the First World War and died in action. And the very first name she came up was Beaton, and turned out to be a relative or a husband, and they had no idea. So that inspired her to do more work and coming up with the 5 names that we've mentioned already. And then we approached the Brunet Funeral Home for their assistance and generosity in carving those names into the cenotaph. So we now have them etched in stone.
That's fantastic, and it's so good to have them here for the 2020 Remembrance Day as well, albeit it's going to be, as we heard from Councillor Grumara, a slightly different one this year. I do hear that there is another addition for Remembrance Day in the form of a new banner though. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Where did the inspiration for that come from?
So it was a carry-on idea to create the banners. We looked at the 39 to 45 Second World War names, and there are 9 listed here. And we realized we had the opportunity not just to call out the names once a year in Remembrance Day, but we could lift those names up on banners. And when we discovered that we had 5 from the World War I names, then it became imperative for us to seek a project that would put 14 banners along the street on these posts along Laurier, running from the corner of Giant Tiger right down to the fire hall. And it gave us the opportunity to remember these people in a way that if you didn't attend the service this year, because as we were saying, it's a virtual service, the moment that you drive by, you will have the opportunity to reflect upon the names, the family names of those who served for our country. We're very pleased to have designed these banners in 2 formats, one for World War I and the second for World War II. They will be distinctively different, and yet they will carried the same themes of both wars, showing the sacrifices the men made on Canada's behalf.
Now, finding a job can be hard at the best of times. So in order to give a helping hand, the month of October was declared as National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Starting in 1945, in the United States, the campaign has gained traction in Canada in recent years, promoting employment and inclusion for those who live with disabilities and to celebrate the many and varied contributions to workers with disabilities. We met up with Kim Corley from the Innovative Community Support Services team in Orleans to find out a little bit more about the work they do in our area. So Kimberly, thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay.
We're here to talk about in particular the month of October, which is National Disability Employment Awareness Month. Can you tell us about what that entails and who supports the program?
Absolutely. So nationally, INDEEM has been running for 75 years, and its purpose is to promote employment inclusion for people who have a disability and to celebrate the contributions of their work of Canada's workforce. But what's really interesting is that the Ottawa Mayor Jim Watson, for the month of October, he officially proclaimed as National Disability Awareness Month. So that has been very exciting. There's certainly a lot more traction happening, but I should mention that there are key partners that are really helping this initiative be alive, create awareness, 3 of which are CASE, the Canadian Association for Supported Employment, EARN, the Employment Accessibility Resource Network, and we're so lucky in Ontario to have ODIN, the Ontario Disability Education Network.
Fantastic. And looking a little bit closer to home with the company specifically, you work for ICSS. Can you tell us a little bit about what you can provide as a company for those seeking to find employment?
Absolutely. So Innovative Community Support Services offers a wide range of offerings specifically for adults with developmental disabilities. So whether that's our residential homes, our one-to-one programming, our group programming out of Mill Street in our new location out in Russell, or whether that's our respite and, of course, employment and services.
And more specifically, we're looking at, say, the region of Clarence-Rockland. Is there any work you've been doing with that particular region, and are there any services that people could be looking out for?
So all of our services are eligible for the residents of Clarence-Rockland. We currently have a few individuals in Embrun. We have one of our homes in Rockland. So we're certainly looking to help more people, specifically for employment and or if they're interested in our one-to-one programming support or respite.
Orleans resident Quintin lives with his disability every day. And though he had some success in finding work in the past, he never found anything he loved until he gained the help from the ICSS Employment Solutions. I travelled Prue Farms to speak with Quintin. Can you tell us how long have you been working here at the farm, and how do you find it? Do you enjoy it?
I've been working here since back in March, and I have been enjoying it very, very much. I was laid off, of course, due to the virus, and then we started back up in the summer.
And how do you find the job?
I love it. I absolutely love it. I mean, I've had prior experience in jobs, and I haven't had a job I've enjoyed this much in ever.
Fantastic that you love this one so much, but you got this employment thanks to the help of the ICSS and their program. How did you find the process of looking for a job before coming through this program?
Before coming to this program, it was difficult, but it was doable. My main thing was I was having trouble with interviews and how to get ready with the interviews, and but that's how this job path helped me, was to get they helped me get ready for this job, and learning how to do interviews and stuff like that.
And you mentioned earlier about how this job is something you enjoy a lot more than maybe some of the previous jobs you had as well. How do you feel when you get up in the morning now, like to go to work? Is it something that thanks to the course that you do and the work you did with the ICSS, has it improved? Has it improved you? How do you feel?
It has. I am 100% more motivated than I was getting up for my previous jobs. Get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I want to go to work. And I am wanting to, work till the end, where my previous jobs, I didn't want to. I was doing it because it was a job. This is something I really enjoy, and that's it,
That's fantastic to hear that they helped you so much. And Quintin, I wanted to ask you that for other people that were in a similar position to you, and maybe they were struggling, maybe they themselves struggled with getting themselves ready for interviews, what would you say to them about the opportunities out there?
If they have the opportunity to take the job course called Job Path, and they'll have, job coaching and support through this whole, getting a job and interviewing and stuff like that. They'll have support. They'll be behind you 100%.
The COVID-19 pandemic has put a strain on many professions and industries, but arguably none more so than professional support workers. There is some good news on this front though, as the Eastern Ontario region is set to see the introduction of over 100 new personal support workers, as Jean Dubois from the Employment Services in Hawkesbury explains. Mr. Dubois, thank you very much for joining us today. We are speaking after the announcements that some more personal support workers will soon be available in the region, available for work. So, Monsieur Dubois, could you tell us a little bit more about how many will be available locally, and why is their help so needed in the moment?
Okay, well, roughly about 100 people over the next 6 months will be available, 6 or 7 months, different time periods that they're ending their programs. Obviously, there's a program in French and there's programs in English across Prescott and Russell and also in Cornwall. And well, the reasoning right off the bat was that our population is growing older, and we need more home care services and retirement home services. So the need was there, and then all of a sudden COVID-19 appeared. So then it was a crying out that they needed employees with certification in their establishments.
And how short were we on employees? And this latest group of people coming forward, how are they going to help plug that gap?
Well, when we're talking about numbers like this, obviously a lot of employers have contacted us and let us know that they are looking to hire. And from our experience here at the Employment Services Center, this hasn't been an ongoing situation where there are a shortage of qualified people. So this is not new. It's been a couple of years that we've been being asked by different employers if we had any people that were available for work, and I know that it's very well received within the community.
And speaking of the community, there, what kind of influence specifically are we going to see on the Prescott and Russell region?
Well, there's going to be an immediate impact because it's going to help alleviate some pressure on existing employees and employers. They're going to have more qualified people. And obviously with COVID, you have to make sure that you have qualified people in place to help with the added, wear and tear on the establishment, but also that we have to take into consideration that there are employees that may contract COVID-19, so we will have qualified people to help out and cover their shifts and things like that.
And Mr. Dubois, just finally, as a little add-on there, with there obviously being a gap in the market for these kind of employees pre-COVID-19, is this something you'd be, at the Employment Centre yourself, encouraging as a career, encouraging people to look into?
Oh, absolutely. And when I meet with these people, from the bottom of my heart, I have a deep respect for people that can do this type of work. You have to be a very special person to be able to work in these situations. Empathy is number one in my book. So yes, absolutely.
And finally, a request was made in the City Council earlier this week as Councillor Carl Grimard asked for decorations for Christmas to be put up a little bit earlier in Clarence Rockland. The hope is that the request, which was seconded by Councillor Maria Zant, will help increase the morale of the community in this trying time, but is dependent on upcoming financial support.
And I really thank Council for looking into this with the pandemic and everything. A resident of Rockland in the urban area approached me and said, would it be possible to put the Christmas atmosphere, to cheer people as much as we can? We can do our part for sure. And I thought it was a good idea, but of course, with Remembrance Day, it would have to be after November 11th.
Yes.
And having said that, I'll speak for the area of the urban core in Rockland. The decorations we had on the post were really going. They were all, I know they were being fixed a bit, but if we could do maybe a little extra in every village, like Bourgette, Clarence Creek, all these little beautiful spots where we could do a bit of extra to bring the Christmas spirit. So anything to help people's morale, I think it'd be greatly appreciated. So I bring it to Council. It's an open book, open subject. So if there's any comments or suggestions, by all means.
Well, I think the department is looking what we can get and what there is out there. So we'll wait for them to come back with a report. And if November 12th is good for you, it's very good for me.
Councillor Diane Chouanière also encouraged people to participate from their homes, turning the Clarence, Rockland and Bourgette region into a veritable winter wonderland.
Peut-être just to give the councillors some ideas of how to improve the sense of community during Christmas time. What we do in Bourgette is we go on the walkway, sur le sentier récréatif, and the children are invited, or each family is invited to decorate some of the trees, and then they make it a special event. So that's one occasion. So maybe we have so many trees in our parks, so maybe families could gather together and do something like that. So there's ways where it doesn't cost too much, and but it still creates the ambience of Christmas.
So that's it for this week's edition of the TVC Headlines. If you would like to become a volunteer reporter here at TVC 22, or if you have a story you want told, please get in touch. You can reach me by my email, which is nouvelle@tvc22.ca, or you can give me a call here at the office on 613 446 6037, extension number 4. Or of course, as usual, you can find us on any of our social media channels. Have a lovely weekend, Clarence Rockland. That's all from me, and I'll see you next week. Goodbye.